Nilikuwa hata nimechokeshwa na maisha yangu. Kwa sasa nimeambia Mungu anichukue. Ndio nilikuwa nimechoka na maisha.
Imagine if you had an invisible illness. How hard will it be to explain to someone who doesn't have a clue? Won't it be a daily struggle being in pain or feeling sick on the inside when you mostly look fine on the outside? Hard work and dedication. If you want to use these words, then the right person to use them on is Harriet Nyakio, for they fit her so well. Sometimes the strongest among us are the ones who smile through silent pain, cry behind closed doors, and fight battles nobody knows about. She was born a normal child, but when Harriet was 4 years old, she was involved in a car accident, an accident that marked the beginning of her nightmare, bringing a dark cloud in her life.
Niligongwa na gari nikiwa na miaka 4. Kaenda ICU for 96 days. After that ndio nilianza sasa kugonjeka.
Harriet Nyakio is in her late 20s and living with epilepsy, a condition that affects the brain and causes repeated seizures. Repetitive seizures lead to loss of consciousness, which is common in people living with epilepsy. When this happens, many will take advantage, which makes an already fragile situation worse.
Nikisikia na nikae chini kwa barabara, kuna mwenye anaweza kuja, nimwambie achana tu na mimi nitaamka. Juu najua kama kuna vile naweza anguka ukute wamenipora. Kama pesa, hiyo kibeti ilikuwa na dawa na vitu vingine zangu.
If there's a day that Harriet will never forget through her journey with epilepsy, is when she was raped by 5 men and left to die after a seizure. Indeed, many thought she had died.
Nilikuwa nimetoka kwetu nyumbani, nikasema sasa mimi nitaishi na hii mateso. Nikaambia Mungu sasa tu mahali nitaenda kukufia. Ndio nilienda, hao watu walinirape wakiwa 5. Wakati waliona nimeanguka, nimezirai sasa sijijui, ndio waliniweka katikati ya reli. Sijui ama walikuwa wanataka nikanyangwe na train kusemekane ndio iliniua. Nayo ni mtu tu aliniondoa akaniweka kando. Mahali nilikuwa nimewekwa, ni inzi tu zilikuwa zinanikula mpaka kwa macho ndani. So unaona wakati askari aliitwa kwa gari mpaka mochari Kenyatta. Nilijisikia kitu saa 9 ya usiku. Ndio kulingana na vile madaktari nisikia wakisema. Nilijisikia saa 9 ya usiku kukiwa kumeletwa maiti huko na watu.
After that horrific incident, the seizure attacks became more frequent. She slid into depression and developed fear towards everyone around her. A few years of living gave her a second chance to life, or so she thought. Her family rejected her soon after, or even before. Her biological mother and all family members have rejected her, saying that she's bewitched.
Hata nyumbani unaona naangaliwa tu vibaya, wataki kuniona.
She has lived a lonely life, now that no one wanted to be associated with her. At some point, she spent nights on the streets and in complete structures, which really posed danger to her life, bearing in mind her condition.
Hata kuna wakati niliona sasa imeshindikana kwetu nyumbani. Mimi nilitoka kwetu nyumbani nikaenda nikasema sasa Mungu tu mahali nitaenda kukufia. Nilikuwa nalala kwa vibanda huko Purogi. Mahali tu naweza pata kwa kulala, hata kama ni kwa kibanda, kwa hoteli ingine ya 24 hours hapo nakalala kama nimekaa chini. mpaka asubuhi.
Due to her condition, Harriet cannot do normal house chores, especially cooking. Her permanent marks tell of her struggle with epilepsy.
Mi nakumbuka nikiwa na hii mimba ya pili nikagonjeka hiyo. Na si ati nilikuwa napika. Mzee aliacha tu ameekelea maji kwa stove ya ugali. Na nikashikwa na hiyo nikaanguka nikagonga maji aje na mguu. Nikachomeka mguu.
Although epilepsy has caused Harriet a lot of harm, while on the streets, she found love. Together with her husband, they were blessed with 2 children, children that they have never had the opportunity to take care of. Harriet's mother took them away, blaming her condition.
Mamangu hata kuniteza ameniteza ile saizi. Akienda mahali, aseme ako na mtoto disability. Kama nyinyi akuja waambie, si unaona mtampatia pesa. Akienda mahali kwingine anapatiwa pesa. Sasa anakuanga na hiyo kadi yangu ya disability na ID yangu. Sasa anaendanga kinini nayo. Sasa unaona mimi hakuna hata ile pesa na kuranga, hata hii ya disability inakujanga kila mwezi. Na watoto wangu ameninyang'anya na si ati tumeshindwa kulea. Hata mzee anakuanga na stress sana, anasemanga mamako juu alisema alipo nguo yoyote alinunua ya huyo mtoto, na si mimi nilimwambia ni vile tu nikiwa msichana wako unaweza ninunulia nguo nikipata mtoto. Alisema alipo nguo yoyote alinunua ya huyo mtoto sasa wa kwanza. Alipo nguo yoyote alinunua na pesa za osi. Sasa nimejaribu juu chini mpaka nimeshindwa. Nikasema baada ya kushindanga nikijipatia stress ama kilio kila wakati, nisema wacha siku yenye nitapata mtu wa kunisaidia nitaendea hao watoto nikuja nikae na wao. Baada ya kukaa na stress kila wakati. Saizi hata nikienda nyumbani atakangi ati kuniona. Atakangi nione hao watoto, hata kama nitaenda kuwaona. Hao watoto at least wanafaa wakuwe kwa mkono yangu. Na sasa alininyang'anya akaninyang'anya aje na mzee yeye hajashindwa kulea watoto.
Epilepsy is a serious condition affecting the nervous system. It can affect any person irrespective of age, sex, economic or geographic location. The condition is traced back in ancient biblical days when Jesus cast demons out of an epileptic man. For this reason, there's many myths and misconceptions surrounding epilepsy, making it the most stigmatized condition.
Honestly, epilepsy is one of the conditions that is highly stigmatized. And I would say the reasons are the myths and misconceptions that people have. Over time, if you look at the Bible, it has a story of a person who was healed from epilepsy by Jesus by virtue of the demons for epilepsy being cast out. So you have so many people who are picking up that story, epilepsy being a very old condition, thinking that everyone who has it either is demon possessed or spirit possessed or something like that. Including the time when I was taking care of my sister. I was a chairperson in my local church for the youth. My mom was the chair lady for Women Fellowship. My dad was the chairperson of the church. And because we were hard hit by that condition, everybody else within the church thought that our sister was demon possessed. And they could not understand why, because again, at the end of the day, it's a family that serves God, but then they have been hit hard by, this kind of condition that is demon possessed. So already that one created a lot of stigma towards our sister and towards us as a family. What you need to understand again is if you have one person who has epilepsy within a family, indirectly affects 5 more people. So I want to believe within the community also, there are people who are indirectly affected by the fact that every time they have to call us because our sister had been seen, having a fit or a seizure along the way.
Research in Kenya rates trauma, infections of birth, and head injuries as the top causes of epilepsy. According to the National Epilepsy Coordination Committee, with a population of about 50 million, close to 1 million people in Kenya are living with epilepsy. Other studies shows that the prevalence of epilepsy in Kenya is about 20 cases in every 1,000 people. About 77 new cases in every 100,000 people are diagnosed every year.
Epilepsy is actually a disease that comes from the brain, and that is the message that we would like every Kenyan to know, and that it is not caused by those many other reasons that people think about, like witchcraft, like generation curses. There is quite a big number of people with epilepsy in the country. We are estimating the prevalence is about 2%, and if you assume a population of about 50 million, then it means at least we have about 1 million people with epilepsy in the country. And I think when the Ministry of Health and other partners are planning care for people with epilepsy, they need to take that into consideration.
The seriousness of symptoms depends on which part of the brain is affected. The seizures can present as visible fits or convulsions, muscle contractions, odd stares, impaired awareness, or confusion and behavior like lip smacking, cycling movements, or moaning.
Highlighting from what we were able to observe from my sister. First, she wasn't quick in speech. She had reached this stage where she's supposed to be communicating, but she was like somebody would think a stammerer or something, and words were not clear. And then there were sometimes having episodes of going blank. You are talking to her and you think she's listening, but after you've finished, she would ask you, what were you saying? Yeah. And then sometimes there would be rolling of the eyes. You are talking to her and all of a sudden it's like she's looking somewhere else differently. Twitching of the hand or a certain part of the body, sometimes it shakes uncontrollably and then it ends by itself. So those would be signs before it gets to a point where she now gets an attack where she falls down and she begins to jerk and have some kind of foam coming out of her mouth. So such are the signs that one would look at and say, this one needs attention.
One seizure doesn't signify an epilepsy diagnosis because up to 10% of people globally can have seizure during their lifetime. Epilepsy, therefore, is having 2 or more unprovoked seizures.
Not all convulsions or seizures translate to one having epilepsy, and that's why we recommend when you get to the hospital, there's a special test that they do to ascertain which part of the brain has been injured, and so what type of epilepsy could one be suffering from. Because again, not all types of epilepsy gets people to fall down and jerk. Others are just blank stares, others are just twitching, others are just having a weird feeling, like you are seeing people or you are seeing things and the like. So that needs to be diagnosed very well by the doctor for them to be able to tell this part of the brain is what is affected, and because it's this part of the brain that controls this and this and this, you are likely then to be feeling this way, you are likely to be experiencing this kind of reactions or some sort.
Epilepsy can be a very unpredictable condition to live with, as seizures can occur at any time, causing disruption to daily life and a very real risk of harm for many. Parents and caregivers of people living with epilepsy are advised not to leave them unattended to. It's also advised that they take note of and have an idea of the sequence in which the seizures occur.
Seizures are not so well controlled. Would advise that the parents or the guardians to be so close to them. Even if they are grown up, they really need a support system that will be there for them. Over time, they get better, and you try to also teach them how to be independent. Like, if you have taught them that you need to take your medication as prescribed, by the end of the day, they will not do the opposite. Because as they grow up, they know, for me to reduce the number of seizures that I have in a day or in a week and work normally without being followed or being looked after by somebody else, is to strictly follow my medication. So if they end up do that, then they can even at the end of the day begin to live alone and so independent. But at the word go, the support system for a family or for a guardian or for a friend, it's very important. At least you have this one person who knows, and they can always remind you whether you've taken your medication or you have any other kind of infection that maybe is a trigger to you getting these seizures or something like that.
Epilepsy is said to be a manageable condition. Immediately after diagnosis, drugs are given to control the number of seizures and improve quality of life. It's advised to seek medical attention early to control the condition before it worsens, for repetitive seizures can go to the extent of causing death.
Of course, medication of all kinds of types are there. The challenge could be some of this medication is expensive, but you have some of this medication also which is not very expensive, and it can help in arresting, the seizure. The goal in treatment for epilepsy is to reduce the frequency of seizures, because that is what incapacitates a person with epilepsy to do the normal things that any other normal person can do, having seizures all the time. Epilepsy in itself cannot kill you, but it's the seizures that one is being prone to when they are not so well controlled. Can fall in water, can fall in fire, you can fall in from a tall building, and so the seizures are the ones that contribute now into the other injuries and even death, of which if they are controlled well with medication, then somebody can just live.
To inform the Kenyans that we've been engaging with the Ministry of Health both at the national and both at the county level, and they have actually been able to give us a list of the available anti-epileptic drugs. There are quite a number. I think phenobarbital is available, carbamazepine, phenytoin, sodium valproate, and most of these are actually being provided for free by the government. And we would like to urge any person that is suspected that they are experiencing seizures to present themselves to a health facility and to get seen by a specialist so that they can be prescribed medication. And that actually can mean the difference between life and death, because our research has shown that if you do not take anti-epileptic drugs as prescribed by the doctor, the risk of death actually increases up to 6 times compared with the general population.
Diagnosis of epilepsy, that is EEG. EEG in full stands for electroencephalography. Electroencephalography, or rather EEG, it is a painless procedure, very safe, no side effects known. It's the main diagnostic tool for epilepsy, and it's very important to have it done. Once you go to the clinic, once you experience a seizure, you go to the primary health care. They will, mostly they will recommend you do an EEG. But sometimes you find that you you're scared. What is EEG? What are the effects that will have on the brain? Probably is your child. And because of that, you are resistant or you are a bit hesitant to do the EEG. I can assure you it is very safe. It is even done on a preterm baby, 1-day-old baby, and it does not have any side effects. If you're asked to do an EEG, and you're afraid, it is okay to tell your doctor you are afraid and tell them what you think and your fears. And because there are so many misconceptions outside, so just be confident and tell. Once you get a seizure, once you get a seizure, the brain is at times deprived of oxygen. So the more this happens, the more the brain is affected, and we don't want to come to a point where the brain is affected. So it is important to get the right diagnosis at the right time, at a very early age, or rather at the start of the condition, so that it is easier for management and the brain. We want to protect your brain as much as possible.
For different people living with epilepsy, each seizure is unique. Coming to and struggling to remember where you are, why these people are staring at you, and who they are can be frightening. Epilepsy caused Catherine Nyambura off her social life. When in high school, she was always referred to as the possessed girl. No one wanted to be close to her for fear of getting possessed as well. She was constantly bullied and made fun of. She lost friends faster than she could make them.
When I went to high school, I went to a boarding school. And after that, I thought actually life would change, because I thought they never knew me. And I thought they would actually associate with me. So afterwards, after some months, life got worse. Because after getting worse each day, because they really got to know that I suffered from epilepsy, because after getting a seizure, they would actually see you. And when they saw you, actually they would run away, talk fishy things, bad things. Actually, stigma in the field of epilepsy is really high. The percentage is really high, because like when I was in school, the stigma was so high, and discrimination and hate or rejection, all that stuff. Because when I remember, actually in school, I never had a desk mate. My life was really terrible, a lonely life.
Epilepsy is a disease in the shadows. Patients are often reluctant to admit their condition because there's still a great deal of stigma and misery surrounding the disease. Many will even think of harming themselves.
I'll even get suicidal thoughts. And when I get the suicidal thoughts, and I'll start thinking of killing myself. So one day I remember when I was in the house, when my mom was away. So I decided to go kill myself because of the depression and pressure. So I went ahead, locked myself in the bedroom, and after locking myself in the bedroom, I went and lit all my clothes with fire. So after that, the smoke started coming out. And so my parents, after coming, they started imagining something fishy was going on. So they came, they lit out the fire, and after that, I was saved, but with some wounds.
Mimi nilikuwa hata nimechokeshwa na maisha yangu. Kwa sasa nimeambia Mungu anichukue. Ndio nilikuwa nimechoka na maisha. Hata nimejaribu hata kunywa dawa imeshindikana. Nimejaribu yani kila kitu imeshindikana.
Despite the challenges and how they are viewed in the society, they soldier on. Freddie Kisarem was diagnosed with epilepsy in 2011. He describes this moment as the lowest point of his life. He was rejected, mocked, and at some point, he even thought he was bewitched.
I was diagnosed with epilepsy in 2011 while I was working in Iraq as a pastry chef. And I came back home and I was diagnosed that I had epilepsy. At the first time, it was very difficult for me because I thought maybe I was bewitched or I had someone who witched me, because that time I was in Iraq and I was earning good money. Then all of a sudden I'm starting to have seizures. It was the lowest point of my life. And a lot of my friends neglected me. A lot of my friends didn't want anything to do with me. Even my girlfriend, she dumped me because I had epilepsy.
In Kenya, different organizations, initiatives and individuals have come forth in creating awareness for epilepsy. The National Epilepsy Coordination Committee, together with different stakeholders, are working to ensure the provision of quality epilepsy care in Kenya. Freddy Kisarem is the founder of the Kisarem Foundation, where he empowers people living with epilepsy.
Our organization deals with creating awareness. We go to schools, churches, and public spaces to teach about epilepsy. And we also do door to door. We visit people in their houses, talk about epilepsy, the challenges of having epilepsy, and also we also teach their caregivers about epilepsy. And recently, Safaricom Foundation, through the Ndoto Zetu, gave us sieving machines. So these sieving machines, we train people with epilepsy free of charge, and the community pays a small fee for us to be able to maintain the school. You will know that most people with epilepsy don't have medication, because in Kenya more than 1 million people are suffering from epilepsy and only 20% of us can access the medicines. And it is very important that these people have source of money or source of income. And so our organization deals with people with epilepsy. We give them skills, we give them vocational skills such as tailoring, such as computers, such as carpentry, and we urge and are grateful to the government for the support. And we are also telling Kenyans that epilepsy is not witchcraft. Epilepsy is your uchawi.
The most driving reason why National Epilepsy Coordination Committee was started is the large treatment gap for epilepsy. And the treatment gap is not just about access to treatment or the health-seeking behavior of the people going to the hospital to get a diagnosis and to receive treatment, but it is also about the lack of facilities and the lack of knowledge about epilepsy in Kenya in general. And we thought that if we can form a body that can be able to address these problems, then it's going subsequently to improve the prognosis of epilepsy and the quality of care of people with epilepsy. For example, if we bring the Ministry of Health on board, then they can actually increase investment and also expand the essential list for anti-epileptic drugs in Kenya. And again, if we bring the World Health Organization on board, then they can be able to advise the government and urge the government actually to adopt and implement any resolutions that are made in Geneva with regard to the management of epilepsy. But in addition to that, as a body, we also decided to run our own epilepsy awareness initiatives. And the ones that we've been doing for the past few years is Road Caravan, in which we work with the partners like the Bank of Africa. And we go to specific counties, we engage the county governments, and then we also go to the community, interact with the members, and then we teach them and educate them about epilepsy, that epilepsy is a disease like any other. It is not caused by supernatural powers, and that one ends up making them go and seek treatment. And another component that we are so much keen about is management. And we've realized that there are very few doctors and specialists for epilepsy management in Kenya. And therefore, we are now targeting the primary health care providers, people trained at the medical level, at the clinical level, at the nursing level. We go and train them and empower them, because at the end of the day, they are the people who are interacting with epilepsy patients.
The impact of the work done by this organization is evident in the many success stories of people living with epilepsy.
We've quite made some remarkable progress so far. First of all, we've been able to visit over 16 counties in the last 10 years, which I think has been possible because of the long-term support that we've received from our sponsors, for example, the Bank of Africa. But we've also seen an increasement in investment in setting up healthcare facilities for people with epilepsy in every county that we've gone to. And I can also be able to attest that when we were beginning, there were quite very few people who were showing interest in epilepsy, particularly the epilepsy stakeholders. And as you can see today, the number is expanding and many people are coming on board and they are actually contributing towards that care. And then the community has united together. So every time we are doing a meeting, be it here in Nairobi or be it elsewhere where our members are, you'll find that most of the people will be represented. So before then, you'd only have a single independent group running their epilepsy activities, which I think has substantially changed.
I decided to join a certain institution. I studied about epilepsy. I came to know what epilepsy was. I decided to actually associate with these people and make the world know what epilepsy was. So I studied epilepsy, I got my certificate, and later on I started a foundation which is called Hamarak Epilepsy Movement. And after that, later on, I started dealing with people. Later, after some years, I was employed at an institution called Kawe, which deals with people with epilepsy. I became the ambassador of epilepsy there. And actually, I remember I completed my work there last year, which was 2019. And after completing my work there as an ambassador, that is, I got to associate with so many people with epilepsy. Later on, I decided to do the martial arts. I entered in the field of martial arts, but it was difficult to actually convince my parents that I would do something like that because they had that mentality. You suffer from epilepsy. So everything was, you suffer from epilepsy when you go to tell them. So they declined. Actually, I had to go do it myself without their advice and actually telling them that I was going to do martial arts. So I started by drawing. I started doing some exercise since actually when I was studying epilepsy, I also studied that the yoga field. So having that experience in the yoga side, so I decided to go on and pick on with the taekwondo field. So I started studying taekwondo, came out from the first belt, the second belt. I continued also with drawings. I drew different things and made exhibitions and showed people that actually epilepsy is not the end of the world. You can do something and become something with epilepsy.
We achieve life milestones at a different pace. Harriet's wish is that one day she will start a business of her own, one that will get her out of poverty.
Sasa mi kwanza nilikuwa nataka, hata nilikuwa nimeambia nani Freddy kama yani mambo ingine. Saizi sinilikuwa nauza watermelon, sinauzanga watermelon. Na sahi kwa soko hakuna watermelon zile tunauzanga. Saizi nimekaa tu hivi. Nilikuwa nataka kama naweza pata pesa niweke hii kazi ya marimari. Juu naweza nini na nitoe hapa nje na niuze.
Currently, she's been selling watermelon and walking over 12 kilometers from here to Mwehoko back. And as an organization, we started an empowerment of tailoring machines. So she's been coming to school almost every day, very dedicated. And we wish her well. We wish also to empower her, and also we wish other partners who can come by and help people like Harriet, because Harriet just needs love and care. She is very dedicated. If someone can walk over 12 kilometers and she's half paralyzed, it means she can conquer the world. And truly, she deserves a medal.
A life with epilepsy is like going on a journey with lots of peaks and valleys, but if well managed, people living with epilepsy can accomplish a lot in life. As a society, we need a new way of looking at life with epilepsy.
Epilepsy is a condition that anyone can get, irrespective of age, irrespective of gender, irrespective of status. And it is possible to live a life normal like every other person because it does not incapacitate you.
I decided to pick up with the side of martial art and show the world that you can also do it with epilepsy in many things, many ways, and you can also become more of what people expect you. Because imagining people figure out that you cannot do something because you get their seizures and fall down. So if this is how we carry ourselves all over in the whole world, who will actually go save who? So you see, if you as an individual saving a person who actually doesn't have the condition, you see, you also be actually influencing this person to come on that field, you see, because this person will see like, this person, how will this person be higher than me while this person suffers from the condition? Yes, you can do it. You can do it, one thing, if you accept yourself and really don't figure the environment besides you, the stigma that you get, figure on the positive side, and everything will be okay.
Living with epilepsy will continue to be unpredictable, but acceptance helps improve the condition and one can live a fulfilling life. We can fight seizures if we fight for our dreams every day and appreciate the little things we accomplish. For CAC TV, I'm Aida Munzati.